Ostia, Ostia. How we await your arrival, how we await the new things that'll come along with you, how we await the new story, the new enemies, and everything else that Sega has as a surprise for us. But for right now, I, as a very confused to be whale for this game, I wonder, what else could we improve on for this game? Could it be the player market? Let's talk about the player market. Hi, I'm Wiki49, and it's been a while since we've done a video. And of course, I always come bearing bad news. But seeing as how we're going further into the lifeline of this game, I feel this is a serious issue that we need to talk about. And that issue will come with earning money in this game. As we can see, by no stretch of the imagination, do I have a necessary problem earning money? I'm currently sitting at 89 mil. I could probably be sitting at more. And this will all come with the player market. As most of you who are probably watching this, I can assume you're all free-to-play players. And it'd be easy to say that it's hard to earn money in this game and you don't necessarily know why. You've probably been following certain content creators such as Thrift Shopping, maybe Chrono, and as much advice as they give you, where the general advice would be go on and farm and sell everything that you farm on the player market. But you still notice that maybe about like 3 to 5 mil is all you could really garner, unless you happen to get that really lucky endgame drop. And let me tell you, that mission pass once per month for selling for 3 days, where you have to constantly watch the market like a hawk, it can be draining, and maybe you have other things in life to do, and you miss that window after you start selling your first batch of stuff. But I can tell you, it goes far deeper than that, and Sega's hold on your wallet, your digital one anyway, and for their hopes and dreams, your physical one, oh, we've only scratched the surface. Hi, I'm Wiki49, your resident hacker, and let's dive deeper into this issue. First off, let's get the general things out of the way. In order to gain access to the player market, you need either one of two things. One, if you're a free-to-play player, you get a one-use 3-day shop pass that allows you gracious access to the player markets. Something like this is only able to be obtained once per month, once per season pass. And it's only active for 3 days. If you're a player who wants consistent buying power and selling power for the player markets, you need to be a premium member. That will cost you $15 a month, and I can assume many of you who are probably playing this as your first MMO for a while, maybe something you're playing casual, and we are just like recovering all from COVID. I'm talking about just economically around the world. Everybody's just financially healing from that. So $15 a month is kind of a big ask. But seeing as how the world is coming out of this, I can also assume on some end Sega is also coming out of this, as we can see with the development of this game. Sega, along with the release of NGS and outside of the initial boom of this game running off the success of episode 6, I feel is run into a snag with retaining players' attentions and being able to extract funds from their players. So, as we've seen from the initial release of this game till its current state, they've had to make it more, and a major portion of that would come along from more aggressively trying to sell you AC scratch tickets and making sure that you are a premium member in order to be able to make any sort of notable progress in this game. AC scratches are pretty much the only easy way of making money in this game. But this also is a direct pay-to-win strategy, so to speak. And it comes from two ways. One, if you're a premium member, that's consistent revenue every month that Sega gets from you, the player. Again, I would say it's a big ask when the only thing that it really gives you is the ability to sell on the player market, which access to the player market is your only way of making any real money in this game. And on top of that, in order to even sell, one of the major things that will sell for any sort of price on the player market would be anything from an AC scratch, which is you opting in to pay Sega more money in order just to sell things on a digital marketplace. We just recently had the recent Overlord scratch, and I will say the quality of a lot of the items are fantastic. The throne you see me currently sitting on is one of the major scratch prizes from that. But any sort of male fashion, such as the Einzel gown replica, a male-only outfit, well, that's a lie, a male-oriented outfit, I should be saying, doesn't sell for quite as much as I would think it should sell for. This price is severely dropped, but I think it's mostly because everybody's just trying to make some sort of a buck. Like anybody else that's willing to spend money on this game is trying to opt into some form of AC scratch just to prepare for the hype of the new region. And I believe it's kind of sad to see. You see, unless it's something for a more prying eye, such as Albedo's costume, and even then, these used to be around 10 mil, nothing's really being sold for much. So you have this huge influx of things being sold on the market, nothing's really retaining its value. And it gets me wondering, why is the player market in such a sad state where even if you do have things that can be sold, you don't really get too much of a return on the player market? And I had to wonder why. And I'm starting to become a firm believer of Sega is probably okay with the state of the player market just because it urges more people to spend on AC scratches to kind of obtain the kind of cash that they used to. If you were someone like me who was a previous veteran from base PSO2, where I would sit on top of like hundreds of million, couple of billion, Meseta, just there, and I didn't know what to do with it, where I became comfortable playing, I would frivolously buy, I would sort of just flip things on the market. I don't know. I just think the overall, like, for where we are in the game, the amount of money that, like, let's say an above average player should be able to have and easily obtain as long as they know what they're doing, it seems kind of forcibly muted. And I started to like looking back at old footage, and I wondered, how did I make money like this before? And it came from various things as I would look through my inventories from back from base PSO2, and I would definitely say a lot of it did come from AC scratch. And at least the initial bit of my wealth would come from AC scratch items that were just really good looking costumes. But more importantly, I noticed weapon camos. I used to sell and flip a lot of weapon camos, and there are so many of them that can't be sold on the player markets for NGS. I mean, I'm understanding that a lot of these that I'm looking at right now are from base PSO2, but even the ones that aren't from there, that can be obtained in-game in NGS, can't be sold on the player markets. The Avlita multi is something from the SG scratch, and most people would say, oh, of course you can't sell those. Those are from an SG scratch. Those are normally a compound. But now I would argue something like the Christia multi. This is something that players who would hardcore play into a seasonal event like the one that we're currently in, this is a cosmetic that you get once per account, and something like this I would almost argue should be sold. This way it rewards people for paying their time forward, and if they ever needed like a huge amount of funds, they can go on and sell something that's no longer in circulation. This no longer seems to be the case, where Sega wants to heavily restrict whatever a player can sell on the player market. And I think that definitely heavily ties into why people aren't able to make as much money as they were able to back in base. Like, even these relic color variant camos, these were something that you can get from an event exchange. A lot of the really, really cool things that you would get from an event are just account bound for the most part. And I have to seriously question why that is. It seems like a waste. Not I don't want to say it's a waste. That's probably the wrong word. It just doesn't feel right that someone can spend all the time in the game to garner all these really, really cool things, but then outside of just having the rule for cool, isn't able to benefit from them in some other way or exchanges them for something else that somebody else might be willing to give up. So why can't I liquidate something like this in order to pool further funds and then buy something else that I want? I'm doing the front work that no one else is doing or someone else doesn't want to do, and I'm willing to exchange that for something else that I would like later on. Maybe high grade armor, maybe fixed capsules. So I want to propose this to Sega. Please stop heavily restricting what we're able to sell on the player markets. Because it's more than just with weapon camos that should be available. You see this with darn near everything that has some sort of player-driven value. You saw this happen with the Kaiser series, and I would say this is almost a first for me, where weapon materials that you could use to craft weapons just were not able to be sold on the player market at all. I mean, you saw that in base PSO2 with certain material items, but usually when it came to something that players could use for weapon crafting, they were able to be sold, and that's a heavy market that people used to invest their time into, those who are crazy avid farmers that they can no longer make money off of. And I find that odd. It seems Sega wants to really heavily bottleneck everybody who is trying to be active in the market on a select few things, that way prices can be driven down. And I think this is just to combat the complaints that things in base PSO2 were sold for too much, and that the overall minimum price for a lot of things was way too high for certain players. But it's not as if they spent the time to play the game in order to even farm up those things in order to sell for themselves. A lot of people who were making those kind of complaints were probably coming in at the tail end of base PSO2. So of course they weren't able to grab the millions of millions that things were being sold on the market for. They didn't put the time in. But there are so many cool things that I believe should be sold on the player market, even if not the color variants, even though I would argue they should be. Even the normal relic camos can't be sold. I would say these are part of a scratch that's a seasonal one, but these should be able to be sold. All this forces somebody else to do is just try to wing themselves into the game more, try to get more scratches, and hopefully they pull the thing due to RNG. But what happens when RNG isn't your friend? It seems like there should always be an alternate method for somebody to be able to obtain the items that they want. And usually for most MMOs, and it was definitely the case in base PSO2, that outside from very, very niche items, it was through the player market. The player market doesn't even really seem to serve the purpose that it once had. And I believe that's a huge missed opportunity. The overall game feel would probably feel a lot better, and people would feel a lot less cheated if they at least had some perceivable route to get the item that they wanted. I would urge Sega to go on and revert these kind of changes. Allow people who are the farmers to go on and gather the materials that I, the person who is more willing to spend money in the game, to be able to obtain these items. Not everybody has the time to farm, but everybody should be able to have a route to get the items that they want. That's all I'm arguing for. And if anything, that brings about prestige for those higher end things that can be gotten in, let's say Ordinal Tower, let's say in Cannonball Rumble. For those that want to farm that and are able to get those drops, those should be sold at a high price. People like me who want to go on and spend an AC scratches, those things should be able to be sold. But with everything being bottlenecked, the prices are remaining so low, even though we have in-game exchanges, but you don't really want to exchange anything for any of the in-game shops because it all feels like a cheat and a lie. Unless you're doing like some of maybe the newer male outfits or something. Because then you at least get your bang for buck. But all it seems like is a sink for player resources. That way nobody gets too high who's actively playing the game. I don't know. That's as far as I wanted to get with it. Like, I'm Lucky49. If you have anything else that you want to mention, leave it in the comments below. We're trying to go on and stream a bit more throughout the weeks. But I think the minimum for right now will be about 3 streams a week. I would hope that this gets out. I would hope someone from Sega sees this, and more often than that, if someone from Sega sees this, I hope they act upon it. Because the means of acquiring items in this game, it either feels impossible or it's far too easy. And I think we need to merge the line between that just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's about it. And that, see you guys next time, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.